Hey, welcome back to Mission 309. I've got a great guest on today. We're going to talk about grappling for gifts. And before we start, I just want to say make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, share not only my vlog here, but what Ryan's got going on. Make sure you share his mission as well, because that's the whole point, right? Is sharing the mission. So I got Ryan Prouty here from Grappling for Gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So go ahead and just we'll start off with what are you doing with Grappling for Gifts?
Okay, I came up with Grappling for Gifts in 2016, basically as a way to raise money to buy gifts for the kids of the Children's Hospital of Illinois here in Peoria. Up until the last couple of years, obviously, they had a thing called Toy Drop-Off Day, which was always the first Saturday in December. And that's where people could come in from the public and bring in new toys to be given to the kids in the hospital, specifically for Christmas, but we kind of shoot for a whole year-round thing here with Grappling for Gifts. So
Awesome. And how did that get started? What was the spark?
in 2013, my daughter Catalina was born. We kind of got a heads up through sonograms while my wife was pregnant at the end of 2012 that a couple things might be wrong with the pregnancy. So they sent us over to the Children's Hospital to some specialists. And once my daughter was born, she was born with a few different defects, I guess. A duodenal atresia, which affected her lower intestine, a heart malformation, situs inversus. If you look up Ivemark syndrome, she kind of shows all the symptoms of that, though not specifically diagnosed for that, but all the symptoms, the asplenia, the heart malformation, etc. So she started off life her first month in the Children's Hospital, and at 4 days she had her first surgery to fix some intestinal stuff. And so like I said, we spent the first month there, and it really made such an impression on us. Not only did they save our little girl, but this was me and my wife's first daughter, our first child, and we had no idea what to do. You know what I mean? As far as how to handle all this pressure of a baby that's stuck in the hospital and having surgeries already and everything. And
there's no rule book for any of that.
No.
I mean, parenting in general, but to have a child with some issues,
it's a learning experience. And but when we got there, we knew we didn't want to be there, but we knew this was the place to be. The Children's Hospital is a 1% hospital worldwide. I mean, there's kids from different states and countries in there all the time, and we knew we didn't want to be there, but this was the spot to be. So they fixed her up, and it was such a good experience, not only for my daughter, but for me and my wife. Like I said, we're just stressed to the max. We, having trouble even taking in everything that's happening. And the nurses and the staff, not only are they checking on my daughter all the time, but they're checking on us, coming in. How are you guys doing? And
that's needed, because that's a lot of stress on you guys.
It was
to navigate the unknown.
Yeah. We're just, for that first month, you got to ask somebody to get her out of the little, we called it her Cadillac, the little plastic bubble type thing that they got us sleep in and everything.
So she was in the NICU there?
She was in the NICU, and then eventually moved up to the upstairs to the PICU. And it was just a good experience. Everybody was great. Every nurse, every doctor, surgeon that we came into contact with was awesome. So, just made a good impression on us. So she gets out after her first month, and and within her first year, we went back a few times. There was always issues coming up, or her getting sick, and even to this day, we're still making trips back every once in a while, but they're getting a little easier at least now. But when we were in there again, everybody was so great. I thought to myself, once Kat is out of the hospital in the clear, living life, I got to do something. I know nothing about medicine. I don't have anything like that, so I kind of sat on it for a while, brainstorming. And then in 2016, OSF started their 12 days of giving program. And one of those 12 days was Toy Drop-Off Day. boom, there. So I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'll raise a couple bucks, you know, um, buy some toys, drop them off. How cool would that be?
Yeah, make some kid happy.
So now I'm
Which
thinking,
they
okay,
need.
how do I do this now? You know what I mean? I don't have unlimited funds. I wish I did to help out, but so I thought, okay, I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for I don't know at this point over a couple decades, and I thought, oh, here's what I'll do. I'll offer some private lessons to the guys at the Peoria Athletic Club. Peoria Athletic Club has been my second home for since I think 2000. I walked in there. Um, awesome group of people. I thought, well, I'll get some of the guys that don't have so much experience, give them some private lessons in jujitsu, $100 for 4 people for an hour. If I get $300 or so, great,
Yeah,
and
that's a handful of toys.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean
that's a
it's a good
ton,
bag.
so, ended up doing that. And then, people caught on instantly, friends and family and stuff. And they're like, well, can we just give you money? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Why not?
Why would I
So
say no to that?
yeah, I'm not going to turn it down. So, that first year, I was expected to make $200 or $300 and ended up making, it's on our website, 2,500 or something. So I was absolutely blown away. And, before COVID hit, they would actually have a reception for Toy Drop Off Day where you physically bring it in. Santa's there, elves, cookies. They got craft stations for the kids. If they start it back up, anybody that's listening, you got to check it out. It's really awesome. You can watch Santa take your gifts, head straight to the elevator and take them upstairs and just start handing them out to kids.
That's awesome.
So cool. So
they would bring them in. I take it already wrapped and all. And
you can. We didn't just be the sheer amount. I wanted to buy more toys and I wanted to buy wrapping paper. So you can, I guess. I think
that's a good point.
now they're asking for unwrap, but
that would be a lot of wrapping too.
And that's yeah, we're talking 2 weeks of wrapping it.
Yeah, you're already wrapping enough every year, right?
Yeah. So it just and that got the ball rolling, and every year except for 2020, we've made a little more. We went from 2,500 to 2,700, and a couple years ago we did I think $12,000 in 19, which was just mind-boggling to me that and I'm doing everything I can. I'm calling in favors. I'm begging for money, and now we're to the point where I'm traveling to different martial arts schools and giving seminars where people just show up, and I say, give me whatever you can, and they donate. I do 3 hours of my favorite stuff, and that's a great way to collect. I've been doing, fundraisers specifically at the Pure Athletic Club. We've got 3 locations, and I did 2, cookouts where I buy the food and the grill and everything, and everybody shows up, trains, and just throws money in a bucket, and also, through, PayPal and Venmo, obviously. And then it got pretty serious to the point where I thought, if I, try and get a 501c3 status, I could take this to the next level. Now I can start working with, corporations and businesses and stuff. And it's a tax benefit to other people also. So as of last 4 months ago, November, I think we got our 501c from the IRS. So now I'm in the process of getting the bank accounts lined up and making everything, as easy as we can to donate straight into the fund. Before it was more of a donation. Well, it was a donation just to me, and but me and my family would still physically take that money and go out and buy the toys. And we usually did it on Black Friday, which I'm not a huge fan of Black Friday.
I don't know if anybody really is, other than deals.
But for the kids, I made the exception because we got such great deals, So we get up on that, that Black Friday, and we go out. Catalina would go with us. After a couple of years, she's got a younger brother, Victor, who is going with us now, and it's been pretty awesome, And we're getting to the point now where we're getting donations from different countries, people that I don't know about or don't know personally. I got a bladesmith in Pennsylvania that raffles off one of his custom knives and gives me the money. Like, just people. I mean, it's really brought out people, I guess exposed me to people that are completely selfless. They hear about something and I'll just get an email or a phone call and say, "Hey man, I'd like to help you guys out." And I'm just like, "You're not even close to us. You're not close to Peoria. We don't know each other personally. And now here's this guy who wants to do this for me." Or, I've got state police in Maine that sent me teddy bears to hand out to kids that had like their these teddy bears are
Wow.
made out of their old uniforms and stuff like that. So I'm getting, these donations from San Diego to Maine and everything in between. And, it's just been pretty awesome. So 2021 was our biggest year for sure. And we raised $14,500 last year. And since I don't do the drop-off day now, the Children's Hospital puts a wish list on Amazon, and I just go in there and just buy up everything and send it straight to the hospital, which is super easy. Since we really don't have the option of showing up and going to the reception and doing all that. But I've really gotten to know people within the Children's Hospital. They will reach out to me. I'll reach out to them, and we're really making sure that we get exactly what the kids need, from toys to games to clothes, just whatever they need.
I was going to ask that too. Like, what, like when you were shopping in person, and what do you go for? Because when I shop for like my niece, like, your own kids is one thing, but like my nieces and nephews for their birthdays, you're like, what are they really into? Like, you kind of know, but you don't know. It's like other kids, like, what do you buy them? Like, well, here's an age appropriate toy, but I don't know if they're into Transformers or Legos or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, and that's what we did. Before they gave us such a detailed list, those first few years, we would just break it down by age group. The teenagers, lots of video games, board games. You know what I mean? Now the hospital really wants controllers because those magically end up missing all the time. So they're always asking for the Xbox controllers and stuff. And then we just, just the different ages. And then we go by and just, buy a cart full of Barbie dolls and then a cart full of superhero, action figures and just different stuff, So at the beginning, it was kind of just up to us. But now, I mean, they're really putting on a specific list that includes, some of these kids will come into the hospital in bad situations where they don't even have clothes to wear, besides what they came in on. So we're buying clothes from, onesies for the babies up to, extra large sweatpants for the bigger kids, so.
That definitely makes sense. I guess you don't really, you think about the Children's Hospital being there, but you don't really think about the vast difference in age range, types of toys. You don't think about the fact that some people have the means to give their kids toys, others don't, or clothes, like you said. Gosh, I would have never really thought about that. But, there's a lot of people that can barely afford to keep the lights on in their houses, and, their children get sick too. So,
yeah, we always say that, we're kind of in the business of making smiles because, like you said, some kids get in there, their parents might be in California. They might not even be able to afford to come see these kids. So, as a parent, when my daughter's in there, they obviously don't want you talking and doing, communicating with kids, as you're walking around so much, especially in the NICU. But like, you would see these kids and the nurse would say, yeah, they don't have anybody that comes to see them. And you're just like, oh, I'm in there every day with my daughter, knowing eventually she's going to go home. And some people don't have that option. You know what I mean? So seeing this stuff firsthand and everything, and just seeing how wonderful everybody at the Children's Hospital is, and just coming to be conscious of the different situations that a lot of these kids are in, has been such a driving force, for us. And, it's really kept me focused. I want to get this bigger and bigger. I want to, eventually bloom into something else, besides just the toys. I'm not sure what, but I want to do, I want to keep going and making a different, making a bigger difference in more kids' lives.
Well, yeah, I mean, as those kids are in there fighting whatever they're fighting, it takes its physical toll, mental toll on them. And
Hmm.
I can only imagine the boredom of sitting in there, watching the one of 15 TV channels, maybe playing the same video game over and over and over again for
Yeah.
hours. I mean, the boredom of that must be insane. So, one board game, a new video game, anything to put a smile on a face. I mean, this is our future. This is
Hmm.
my future, your future. I mean, the
Yeah.
children that are growing up now are going to be running this country and taking care of us when we're old. So we gotta do what we can to take care
I'm
of
gonna
them.
be nice to him now.
Yeah, I know, right? Be
Hey,
nice to
remember
them
this?
now, so they make good decisions for you later, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it can be, very boring. My daughter just did 5 days in there, unfortunately, last the week of Halloween last year, and when you're just looking out the window, and luckily we had a window that faced the helicopter landing pad, so we got
Oh, there
that
you
was
go.
like the big excitement when the chopper would come in and out, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, it can make for long days. So the thought of hopefully maybe a kid that's getting something because of us is just awesome. It's a cool feeling, and we've seen it firsthand. And I just thought if it helps just a little bit for a couple minutes, I'm all in.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a smile for a couple minutes,
Yeah.
and it's an awesome thing to do, and it must be awesome to bring gifts in there back, before and watch Santa Claus take them in an elevator and go right up there.
Yeah, that was
And
pretty cool. And and again, it's not just us, it's the whole community. I mean, you should see the amount that the people would come out, to people's cars and trucks and everything with just these giant um, trays and stuff, and just pulling stuff in. And it's pretty cool, knowing that for sure Christmas, these kids are going to be sad. Everybody's going to get some good stuff. And then, we want to make sure that that happens year round. So we're going as far in as we can, just so when June rolls around and these new kids are coming in, that hopefully they have something and brighten their day at least for a couple minutes. So we're really trying to just and maybe eventually make this venture a year round thing. Right now I kind of start, I don't know, towards the end of the summer and then wrap up. I have to wrap up before Christmas, really. I mean, I would love to do this full time, but work and family life and everything.
Hey, but you know what? Doing something is better than doing nothing. So, you're definitely impacting a lot of kids, and it's not a surprise that people will get behind it. It's kids. It's not hard to to want to support kids in one way, shape, or form. But really, this whole area that we live in. Are you
Mhm.
from here originally? This area?
Yeah, I was born at St. Francis Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was I. And one thing I've always been, really found fascinating is how giving our area is.
Hmm.
Now, there's a lot of things people are negative about when it comes to Peoria, and that's one of the driving factors with me creating this Mission 309. But there's a lot of positive, caring people. There's a lot of negative stuff out there, but if you stop and you just look, there are so many organizations and so many people that just give a
Hmm.
lot, a lot.
Absolutely.
And we've got these great hospitals here that are doing amazing things, and you can't help but to support them.
Hmm.
So that's awesome. And the whole Amazon wish list thing, boy, that's brilliant. That is
Yeah.
so awesome, to make sure that the kids are, it's just so much easier, I'm sure, logistically.
Yeah, and it's great, so they'll have their address like attached to it. So, you could just skip Grappling for Gifts altogether, go straight to their site if you want, and boom, just you know what I mean? So, again, anybody that ever
Do they do that for
sees
kids
this,
for their birthdays too?
what's that?
Do they do that year round for the kids that have birthdays or things like that? Do you know?
That I'm not sure. I just know that when I make a delivery, or if I've got a group of people that that donate X amount to me, instead of having that delivered straight to the hospital, I'll have it delivered here, and I'll kind of stage everything I bought, just to show the people, hey, this is you. This is what you guys have brought in. And then I'll go over there and, I'll get in touch with the people in the child life department, who are absolutely wonderful, by the way. And drop that off. They keep everything in a room up front is all I know. So how they, hand it out, disperse everything, no clue. But, I just know I need to keep that room filled up,
That's awesome. So is there any events that you've got coming up? This is March of 2022. So anything coming up this spring, this summer?
You know what?
For events, for fundraising?
We haven't started anything. We haven't started planning yet. Like I said, I usually start kind of mid to end summer probably. But, we're always doing something again at the Pure Athletic Club, which you don't have to be a member to show up. I tell anybody that'll listen, come on out, throw a couple bucks in. I'm buying the food, I'll travel. I'll do jiu-jitsu seminars at different schools, but go to grapplingforgifts.com. We've also got a Facebook page that should be pretty easy to find. I'm always posting stuff on there. So any upcoming events between those two, the website and the Facebook page, I'm usually keeping everything pretty up to date. So
awesome. Well, I'll put those in the show notes so that anybody watching can find those nice and easy. So I guess the last question I've got for you, is there anything you need right now from the community?
Just share. Whether you're sharing Grappling for Gifts info, share the 12 Days of Giving program that OSF does, just get out there and, even if it's something small and you can make a difference, I always encourage people to do, take action, do something. I'm always challenging not only my kids, the neighborhood kids, if you can make even a small difference, man, go for it. The world needs it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's more than enough darkness in this world. It's good to see somebody shining a light on something. So Ryan, I appreciate you stopping by and sharing what you're doing. And hopefully some people will watch this and get inspired and want to pitch in. So everybody, like I said before I started, make sure you go follow Ryan. Go follow what he's doing. Support how you can, share, and all that stuff. So thanks again, Ryan, for being here.
All right, Keith. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.